Good morning, Long Lake Friends Church. It's Sunday morning, December 13th. Many of you are scurrying about, getting ready for Christmas, and we just wanted to check in and talk to you briefly about something that I'm sure that you're already aware of. You probably know that Crystal and I have met with M&O and Paul Collins, our presiding clerk, and we have gone ahead and tendered our resignation here at Long Lake Friends Church. From the beginning, let me just state that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you all. There's nothing wrong with us as far as some major reason why we would have to tender our resignation at this time. So there's no major issue or no major problem we've had with anybody, and we certainly have enjoyed and loved every bit of time that we've had with our congregation here. We just want to point out that for our sake, at this stage in our life with our children, we have in the last few years, especially here in Traverse City, found that it's been a tremendous strain to be away from family. You may not realize this. Many of you have family in the area. Some have family downstate. You can see family fairly easily. Both sides of our family are probably 14 to 15 hours of driving distance one way just to be able to see them. So Crystal's family in Virginia and my family is all in Southwest Missouri, and it has just become a very difficult time for us to actually share time with them. It takes a lot of time to plan, and so we are going to attempt to move closer to Crystal's family in Virginia and go from there as far as plans for the next phase of our family life. And so we are going to try to practice what we preach. And what Pete preaches often, he says, family comes first. And he says that quite often. What I'm going to do right now is just read real quick the letter. Many of you received this letter in the mail. And this is from M&O and from Paul Collins. So I'll read it real quick. To the members of Long Lake Friends Church, we are sending this letter to inform all the members of the church that on Friday, November 27th, 2020, the M&O committee met with Pastor JCIngle and his wife Crystal to discuss the new contract that would take him into November of 2021. After conveying to him and Crystal how much we appreciated all the work they had done since they've come to our church, the pastor told us they would not be able to stay for another year as they will be selling their home and moving closer to family. They will continue pastoral services until they leave the area. We understand and support their decision to go where God leads them. We are very sorry to see them leave, but know they came at a time when the church was in dire need of healing and guidance. Words cannot express our appreciation for all they have done within the church and outside the church. We will miss the sometimes fiery messages that Jared delivered and how they kept one's attention. We will also miss his leading the music team as he played guitar and both he and Crystal sang. The M&O committee is working on securing pastoral care while we prepare to search for a new pastor. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to an M&O committee member. We look forward to seeing you again as soon as the lockdown has been lifted and we can meet again safely. May God continue to bless the Ingle family. Sincerely, the M&O committee members. So we just wanted to share that with you as well, and just again tell you how much we appreciate every moment we've been able to spend with you. We count it a high honor. I'll be sharing a little bit today, and then we will see on a week-to-week basis what we're going to be able to post on Facebook. But please look for things on Sunday morning. We do want to take time to encourage you, and we will continue to do so as the Lord directs. God be with you. Well, now that I've taken time to share some difficult news with you, I do want to share some good news. I was thinking about the fact that when I first preached here, I felt led to share the story about Jesus walking on the water and basically calming the chaos that was there in that particular storm, and how that all transpired. And I feel like that was a very timely word, something that may have needed to been heard by Long Lake, and that was before you were even considering me for pastor. I just knew that I had possibly one moment, one day, to speak to something relevant for you. And I feel like maybe today is similar. I'm not going to claim that it's just some profound word from the Lord, but I do want you to hear. We're talking about Advent, and this week we're going to talk about joy. So listen to the word of the Lord from Luke chapter 1, verses 23 and 20 through 25. It says, "And when his time of service was ended, he," being Zechariah, "went to his home. After these days his wife Elizabeth conceived, and for 5 months she kept herself hidden, saying, 'The Lord has done for me in the days when he looked on me, to take away my reproach from among people.'" And so here's just an amazing situation. You really do have to compare what's going on here, this joy, this kind of hidden joy that Elizabeth has, to none other than Sarah. I mean, it typically is compared to Sarah, this particular passage. She bears a child in her old age, and it is a phenomenal miracle story. She stays in hiding for 5 months. Now, my thought probably, logically, would just be that this is the first trimester, just past the first trimester, a couple months, and that she's staying in hiding just to make sure that that baby is fully developing within her womb, and not to raise the eyebrows too much of those in the neighborhood, because she is a priestess, basically, or she's from a priest home, and Zechariah is a priest, and so it's not like they're unpopular. People know who they are, and so she's hiding out, but she's hiding out with this thought: the Lord has done for me something in the days when he looked upon me. And so this idea here is, in her expression, is something that we may want to latch on to today. And that is, what is the promise? Is the promise any one person? Is the promise any one idea? Is the promise any one plan? Or is the promise something that's even greater than our expectations? What will that promise be when God brings it to us? And I want us to think specifically about Long Lake Friends Church. He's taking us through a very turbulent time. God has spoken to us. He's ministered to us in various ways. He's allowed us to minister to each other in our church. But is the promise bigger than that? Now, what is the promise? What is the promise that's going to be fulfilled for you all in the next phase of your life, just like in our lives? Think about our little family. The joy maybe that my wife has sitting here to announce with you in sadness that we're going to be leaving, but also in joy that for once in our lives we're going to be able to live close to her family indefinitely, that for the foreseeable future we're going to be able to spend time with her family, and that's something we've never been able to do in our married life. We've always been passing through, so to speak. We knew that there would be another assignment soon, but now we're not so sure. We may actually enjoy time with them. And what is Long Lake going to experience now? What is God going to bring to fruition for you all? What is God going to be doing? And is this the moment when we need to be expecting? Is this the time when we need to be hiding away in his presence and waiting for him to reveal more of this plan? Let's look at verses 39 and following there. It says, "In those days Mary arose and went with haste into the hill country to a town in Judah, and she entered the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. And when Elizabeth heard the greeting of Mary, the baby leaped in her womb." So the baby actually leaps in her womb. Now, nobody in the early church dismisses this. So in other words, it's not just a circumstance. It's not happenstance. And just think about this. If babies kick, we all know babies kick, so if this was just another kick from the baby, if it was just another just regular thing that goes on with childbirth, then why is it recorded? Why is it here in the Bible? Sometimes babies kick in the womb. We know this to be true, but why in the world would it be recorded in the Bible? Let's see what happens next. "The baby leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit." She's filled with the Holy Spirit. Just an amazing verse there. It says, "And she exclaimed with a loud cry." Now, many people believe this is a song and that she actually sang it. And of course, I'm not going to try to sing like Elizabeth, but she said to Mary, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. And why is this granted to me, that the mother of my Lord should come to me? For behold, when the sound of your greeting came to my ears, the baby in my womb leaped for joy. And blessed is she who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what was spoken to her from the Lord. Now I want to focus on something that maybe you don't participate in, don't think about much in your faith tribe, but in our faith tribe, when we talk about ministry being developed, it's very important for us to understand ministry as not just being developed, but as something that the Holy Spirit births among us. And so oftentimes we've seen over the years, and we've traced it now, we've got 100 years, over 100 years of Pentecostal organizations. And of course you all have many with the Friends background, and many Catholics I know in the area even that are Pentecostals, some downstate, and a number of different ones that just understand and just focus on the way that the Holy Spirit moves, is that there are certain times and seasons when people will get excited, and I've even witnessed it here at our church, people will get excited about some type of ministry, and it's almost as if the Holy Spirit is birthing the idea forth from a group of people. And as a pastor, what's exciting for me is that I'm not the one who's always doing it. I'm not the one who's always birthing the ministry. I just have to be the one to kind of facilitate that and notice what's happening. I'll give you an example real quick. It was with our missions committee. Our missions committee came together, and Crystal joined that team eventually, but we basically opened the door for her to do that, and we brought her to the table, but there were others who were already gathering at that table. And they revisited all the missions ministries that we're doing in the area. They looked at them again. They started deciding, well, what are we going to give? How much are we going to give? What's our budget? And they started looking at all these different things. Well, guess what? God did something new with the missions committee. He birthed something new during this time. He did the same thing with worship. He did the same thing with a number of little subsets, some of our committees and things within the church during this last year. Now, did God give us the overall huge revival that some of us were praying for? Well, maybe not. But did He give renewal to certain committees? Did He light up certain faces? Did He bring people to the table who weren't at the table before? Did He birth little ministries in our church? I would argue that He did. And this is what's going on also when we look at this passage. We can't just see the fact that the Holy Spirit baptizes or the Holy Spirit fills Elizabeth just for herself. No, He's not just filling her for a song, that she would sing a song. He's filling her with the joy of the Holy Spirit, and that joy is going to resonate through her life, through her body, to John, who's within her, and it is going to resonate outward, and it's going to be something that will carry the message of the gospel with it. It even blesses Mary, the one who expects what God is going to do to come to fruition. And so this is a joy, this is a blessing, this is a fruition of ministry, this is a birth ministry, that John will be the one who will make the pathway straight for Jesus. And so it's an exciting, exciting passage to look at when we consider the joy. Here's another thing about joy. We don't just look at joy as something like, oh, I just can't contain myself, or joy as, oh, is this even possible? What's going on? I can't believe that God would even do this for me. And sometimes I think we do think of it that way, but joy in the New Testament, properly understood, is one of those community terms. So when we look at joy in passages like this, we have to understand that joy is interpreted within the context of community. And throughout the book of Acts, throughout the epistles, different things that Paul writes, throughout the other epistles, when we look at joy, most of the time, the vast majority of times, joy is interpreted as something that we share in community. Joy is a shared experience. And so she's sharing this joy with John. She's sharing this joy with Mary. And Jesus is, of course, being birthed in Mary. And so this is the meeting of all meetings before Mary gives birth to Jesus, that John and Jesus would really seriously be in the same room, and that the Holy Spirit would be birthing something within them that would transform all of history. And what is God doing with you right now? What is God doing with the church right now? What is God speaking to us as a people right now? And what is He going to do? He's going to do great things. And we can have joy even in times when it's difficult to understand why or how. Part of the Advent is recognizing that Christ is birthed in us. Christ is born anew in us. We have the Christ child living and strengthening us, and He is leading us into the wonder again of Christmas, of reflecting on all these things. And joy is one of those things that we can hold on to as a shared emotion. It's something much greater than that, but it's a shared emotion and community. Now let's look here just at a couple more verses here. It says that in Mary remained with her about 3 months and returned to her home. Now the time for Elizabeth to give birth came for Elizabeth to give birth, and she bore a son. And her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown great mercy to her, and they rejoiced with her. Again, another form of the word joy. They rejoiced with her. And on the 8th day, they came to circumcise the child, and they would have called him Zachariah after his father. But his mother answered, "No, he shall be called John." And so here she is defending the name that the angel Gabriel gave them. And it goes on to show that Zachariah actually comes to her aid. He writes that down as well. And he's released from this curse, or this sign, really, of silence. And he begins to speak. They all begin to rejoice again. And so joy is one of the greatest themes of the birth of Christ when you look at the story of Zechariah and Elizabeth. And I just want to point that out to you again. Just think of Crystal and I. Think of us here in our mid to late stages of my career, and having the joy possibly of being with family and being around people that we don't get to see but once every couple years, some of them. Think of our church. Think about the personality of our church and how that God can renew us with joy and vision and ministry and mission, things that we feel like sometimes are old, or things that we feel like are sometimes how could it be that God would bring back to us the vigor of youth? But God will. God will. And I have many times sat with pastors across our nation who have considered this very question. What do we do with a congregation that certainly has a commitment over time and has proven their mettle? And I've believed many times, and I've seen it happen many times, that the youth of a church can be renewed without the church losing her personality, that new ministry can be launched, that new vision can be seen, that church can turn and put its shoulder to the plow again, that church can run and not grow weary, so to speak, walk and not faint, that church can mount up with wings as eagles. So there are many things that happen in a congregation and happen when the joy of the Lord starts getting in there and infecting us with His goodness. So I just want to leave you with that thought today, the advent of joy.